Hey, Dr. Ellis Edmunds here. Let's talk about boundaries today. Now, what on earth is a boundary, you might say? And I'm not referring necessarily to the physical one, but more of an emotional boundary or psychological boundary that you set with another person in a relationship. Now, I'm going to ask you this. When you think about a boundary, how would you define it? Let me know in the comments below how you would define a boundary, because I think that is a good question in and of itself. Like, what is a boundary? And people have different definitions for it. Now, some people may think of a boundary and they think of like a brick wall, like you're really going to say no to everything and you're just going to shut other people out and you're just going to, basically do exactly what you want at all times. And you could think of someone who's like boundaryless, which having no sort of ability to say no to saying yes to everything, like a people pleaser, kind of having no boundaries. Now, those are kind of two extremes, perhaps, and you can think of a boundary. The way I think of a boundary is that it's more of like a permeable barrier, like a fence in a sense, that it kind of lets in some stuff, but also lets out some stuff as well. And there's sort of some things that you're choosing to let in, you're saying yes to, and some things you're choosing to say no to. And you're obviously adjusting that depending on the situation and the person. So a boundary really can be a fluid thing. It doesn't have to be a solid wall or nothing at all, but there can be sort of a permeability to a boundary. Now, what would that actually look like? For example, if somebody is asking you to go out to dinner, but you're busy or you're tired or you just really don't want to, like what do you say? Someone without any boundaries may say, "Sure, of course, I'll rearrange everything and do it for you." Or someone with very strict boundaries may say no, and then sometimes people kind of take things to the extreme and they say, "Why would you ever ask me that? I can't believe you would blah blah blah," and kind of go off on the other person, and they think that's setting a boundary. Well, those are kind of two ways of dealing with things, and kind of everything we are doing, in a sense, is setting a boundary. But what would a healthy looking boundary be like? To me, all a healthy looking boundary is being open and honest and authentic and speaking to your feelings and your needs in the moment. So that could look like saying, "I'm feeling really tired and I need to rest. Could we meet next week instead?" Simple as that. So just kind of stating your feelings, stating your needs, and what your boundary actually is. And you don't ever have to apologize for setting a boundary. You may need to apologize for attacking another person, but for setting your own boundary, that would never need an apology for. And if one tricky thing that happens with boundaries is people may or may not respect your boundary. And that, if someone doesn't respect your boundary, first of all, that has nothing to do with you. That is all on the other person and their issues with boundaries and respect around those. So, and that can definitely give you some information about a person if you want to continue to have a relationship with them and if they're a healthy person to be around. A healthy person would respect boundaries. So if someone doesn't respect your boundaries, then that is not on you, but you do have the responsibility of sharing and communicating your boundaries. So if you're not sharing your boundaries, then other people don't know exactly what they are, typically. Um, it, it should be sometimes it's better to just be direct, and typically it's better to be direct rather than try to be indirect about how you're communicating your boundaries with others. So indirect communication would sort of say, "Oh, I would love to have dinner," but not really when you're actually feeling like you wouldn't want to, but then kind of making up an excuse and then doing that over and over and over again, saying yes, making up an excuse to say no, but really you just don't want to see that person. So that would kind of be an inauthentic way of setting a boundary. Um, but the healthy way again would be sort of direct communication about what your boundaries are, and then sometimes you do have to reinforce your boundaries. That's the thing. Sometimes people, they are just not good at accepting boundaries, and that's sort of part of their issues, the things that they grew up with, the way that they were raised. And you need to kind of set your boundary and also say it twice, say it 3 times, say it 4 times, say it 5 times, what the boundary is. and continue to maybe withdraw if you need to, or kind of create more space with the person if you need to. Um, so I love, I believe it's Brene Brown who says like boundaries is the space between where I can love myself and love another person. So really the key of boundaries is about self-love. And if it is about attacking another person, that's not a great boundary. So remember to, when you're setting your boundaries, it's about loving yourself. And how can you love yourself and the other person? And what is that distance that you need? Sometimes with another person we really trust it, we don't need so much boundaries and we can be really close with them. And then sometimes with other people we need a ton of boundaries, and that's okay too. So those are all parts of healthy relationships, having a boundary. Even very intimate relationships need good boundaries. We all need to have some sense of individuation, that we are our own person, that we can do things on our own. That's very healthy, and to have a sense of togetherness and closeness and connection. And that is also healthy. So really boundaries are about where can we find that balance between those two things. So I hope this video was helpful. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.